Welcome to the Power Factor Show. Episode 152. Sponsored by Taylor Freelance, Rainier Ballistics, Hodgson Powders, and JPL Precision.
Hey Power Factor fans, it's Rick again with another quick tip for you. This time the topic is 8-round single stack 1911 magazines. The history of the single stack mag goes back, of course, 100 years to 1911 when the gun was designed as a 7-rounder. You could fit a total of 7 rounds in the magazine for a capacity of 7+1. Sometime back in the 70s, it was decided that you could probably fit an 8th round in there, but there were some compromises that had to be made. This is a standard flush fit 7-round. This actually is an 8-round mag, but it's a standard flush fit mag with a metal base plate that when it's fitted in the gun does not extend below the bottom of the frame. Now when this was designed, it was intended to hold a total of 7, and the spring and everything was engineered for that capacity. And the mags are extremely durable. I have GI mags that are 90 years old, and they're still fully functional because the engineering, of course, of the day, they probably took into account, this thing's got to be durable, it's got to last forever, so we're going to size it to fit enough spring. And I think the capacity was dictated by the engineering considerations for durability rather than the other way around. We're like, okay, how do we change this magazine so it'll hold 8? And that's what came up in the 70s, was let's adapt this magazine to hold 1 more round. So what you had to do, though, in order to do that, since the cartridge is almost a 1/2 inch in diameter, is you had to find a 1/2 inch of space inside this tube. So what you saw was redesigned followers that didn't take up quite as much space within the tube, re-engineering the spring, in some cases a weaker spring. If you think about the purpose of the spring is to push the stack of cartridges up to the top of the magazine, hard against the feed lips where it can be fed into the barrel by the slide. If you weaken the spring so that you can add another round, you're now trying to lift a heavier stack of rounds with a weaker spring. So you can see how the performance of the magazine could be compromised by changing those specifications. And here's an example of kind of this was the cutting edge for almost 20 years. It's a standard length tube, but with the modified spring and follower to allow an 8th round to fit. Now, the base pad extends below the frame and it's easily removable. The GI style magazine has a welded base. It's semi-permanently attached on there. You can't really get it off. And so if you wanted to clean this magazine, to disassemble it, you have to pull the spring and the follower out the top. The more modern magazine with a removable base pad, as you can see, there's a little hole in the base. You can stick a punch or something in there to depress the spring enough to slip this off. And then that allows you to clean the magazine from the bottom. You can run a rag through it, detail clean the follower and the spring, and put it back together. And it's a lot easier to pull that stuff out the bottom than to try to fish it out through the top. But this gun does have the kind of compromising features inherent in the flush fit length tube with the spring and the follower adapted to hold an 8th round. Now the mag does extend about a 1/2 inch below the frame because of this added on base pad. Now if you've got any kind of a gun, regardless, in order to be sure about seating the mag in there, having that base pad makes it a lot more positive because you've really got something to push against to drive it in there, as opposed to the flush fit magazine, in which case you're kind of I usually end up with the heel of my hand against this little tip on the base plate as something to press against, although sometimes I'll get the skin on my hand pinched between the mag and the frame. So if you really want to pound those mags in there, as you do when you're in competition, you want that base pad that extends out below the bottom of the frame. Now, what are you getting for your 1/2 inch other than something to push against? And the answer is nothing. You're just adding a 1/2 inch to the gun for the sake of having something to push against. So the next advancement in the 8-round magazine design was the extended tube mag. Now you can see on this magazine, the traditional 8-rounder, the plastic pad extends below the base of the tube, whereas on the extended tube magazine, the base pad surrounds the tube that extends below the bottom of the frame. So the complaint about the traditional 8-round mag is that you're trying to squeeze an extra cartridge in there, which is almost a 1/2 inch in diameter. So you've got to find an extra 1/2 inch of space in here. With the extended tube mag, you're getting yourself about 1/4 inch of extra tube, which allows you either to use a more conventional follower design or a little bit more spring in there. So essentially, this is almost like a purpose-built 8-round magazine compared to a kind of a compromised 7-round magazine designed to hold an 8th round. Now in this case, if I line them up here, you can see that the flush or the extended tube mag is slightly longer than the traditional style mag, but I do have conventional 8-round magazines like this in which the base pad is so thick that it's actually longer overall than this extended tube magazine. So rather than just bolting a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch of plastic on the base of your standard length tube, by using the extended tube mag, you get essentially a true 8-round magazine, and it's not really any longer than some of these older first generation 8-round mags. Now this is a Chip McCormick Power 8, and I've used these for many years, and really I never had any issues with them. You'll hear people say, oh, you know, I tried those McCormick mags and they suck, or they'll say I tried the Wilson mags and they suck. And if somebody tells you that a magazine or a group of magazines that they tried in their gun didn't work, but hey, this Magic magazine, this one works all the time, I would say that the problem is not with the mag, the problem's with the gun. I've tried magazines from Wilson, Metgar, Metal Form, Colt factory mags that are also made by either Metal Form or Checkmate brand, Act mags, which are I think imported from Italy. I've tried all those mags and they all work in my gun. And so when I'm trying to decide which mag I want to use, I'm not stuck using the one Magic mag that works. I can have my choice. And so I choose the extended tube 8-rounders because I think the engineering behind them, the engineering theory behind them is superior to the older style mags. It's really closer to being a true 8-round mag, and you're not really giving anything up in order to have that 8th round and a conventional follower and a stronger spring. Now this magazine is Checkmate Industries. It's sold by various retailers as a competition magazine, and it uses their patented follower. It's kind of a product improved version of the DeVell follower that's in the Chip McCormick magazines. But it is a product improvement. It's a better design, and there's extended tube 8-rounders. I think the first ones were made by Tripp. The new Wilson Combat ETM magazine, I think it's called, is also an extended tube design. The Act mag from Italy, which is very available under a number of brand names. The ones that I had were Novak branded, but they're also sold by under other names. Those are all extended tube designs, and I think they're superior to any of the flush fit mags that came before, except in one consideration is if you're carrying concealed, which isn't really a competition issue, of course, but if you're carrying concealed, the short flush fit mag I still like as the mag that goes in the holstered gun. Usually people agree that when you're trying to conceal a gun, the concealment issue isn't so much the length of the gun, but the length of the butt. And so, for instance, if you're going to carry a 3-inch gun or a 5-inch gun, that part of the gun is stuck down inside your belt. The part that's hanging out is the butt. And if you've already got a full-length gun and then you add a 1/2 inch of base pad on it, it's just that much bulkier. So I still do like the flush fit 8-rounders. I have had excellent results with them over the years. I don't have some of the concerns that other people do. Those who have used 8-rounders and have had issues with them and have changed back to 7-rounders, you know, God bless you, that's great. But I have been using the flush fit 8-rounders for 20 years. And I don't really have the same kind of concerns about them as some people do, But at the same time, I recognize the superiority of the extended tube mag, and recommend those that if you're going to go to the store, you're gearing up for USPSA single stack or IDPA custom defensive pistol divisions, and you need a bunch of 8-rounders, I recommend you get the extended tube style mags.
Hi, I'm Larry, and I've got Robin here to help me demonstrate a new holster. It's not really a new holster. This is a holster from DC Holsters. It's called Deep Cover, is what DC stands for. And this is made by a local shooter, not Robin, named Greg Purcell. And he's a small business owner, master class shooter, USPSA, and just all around good guy, good hard-working guy. And he's been making these for, I'd say, 3 or 4 years now. Does that sound about right?
About right.
I remember when he advertised his holster in Front Sight magazine, for example.
I wrote the article about it.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. So if you guys like an IWB, that's inside the waistband holster for concealment purposes, this is not a race holster. This is not a competition holster. But if you like an IWB for concealed carry, this might be a good option for you. So this is what is called a hybrid holster. It's got a leather back with a Kydex shell, half of a shell here for the gun. This is molded sheet Kydex, and there's a spring clip attached, riveted here to the holster body itself. Now the spring clip is attached very, very low. It's very strong. It's a really, really high tensile steel clip. It retains, you're not going to bend that thing. It is strong, and it's not going to come off your belt. It's shaped in such a way, there's a flat shelf down here, so that gets underneath your belt, it's not coming out. In addition, to keep this holster in place, you see the leather is done with the rough side in, the smooth side on the gun side, but up against your body is the slightly rougher side, and that gives some traction to keep this thing in place. This is simpler than the designs that have 2 clips on either end of the leather. A lot simpler to attach to the belt, and then that clip that is attached very, very low allows you to tuck your shirt in. So this is a tuckable IWB, and Robin is wearing one now. I don't know if you noticed, but you can see a clip right here on his belt. So he has his shirt tucked in between the holster body and the clip, and that allows you to, tuck shirt in. Summertime, springtime carry. Don't need a jacket. You don't need a some kind of exterior vest, cover garment, what have you. You can dress normally for your kind of office scenario. And most people aren't going to notice a clip on your belt, especially if your belt is black, for example. That would probably help hide it even better. But I don't know what else to say about these. These are, like I say, it's a molded sheet Kydex. This one is cut for the Glock. You see how the Glock fits in that. This is a compact Glock 23. You see it sticks out just a hair, but it's not closed at the end. So if you've got a 26, a 20, if you got a Glock 26, a 19, and a 17, this will work for all 3. The holster body is attached to the leather back with 8 rivets, and seems to be a very well made product. Robin, you have any comments
sure.
about that?
When you go to a deep concealment holster, you're going to have trade-offs. This is not a race rig. Sorry, it's just not designed to do that.
For sure.
So it's kind of, you have to give a little bit of thought as to what you're giving up and what are you keeping. A lot of guys in our world will go with either ankle holsters or they'll go to thunderwear kind of operations and things that are really deep cover, and they do a good job of being really deep cover.
Right.
Then the deep concealment holster does that very well also, perhaps not as dramatically as some of those more extreme concealed holsters, but it does it in a way where you can get a reasonably fast draw out of it. The scenario I point to is, imagine running for your life because there's some sort of terrorist attack and trying to draw your gun to potentially defend yourself from an ankle holster. while running. Imagine running down the street trying to, no, this is ridiculous. Whereas you could easily do that with a deep concealment holster.
Right, yep.
The other element I like about the deep concealment holster is you can wear a medium weight shirt. This is a light shirt, so my gun print's really bad. But wearing a slightly heavier shirt, I've walked around in an office environment with my gun on and had no one be the wiser.
Right.
And still been able to have about a 2-second draw, 2.5 second draw with that.
And that's respectable.
That's respectable.
That's
from
very
a deep
respectable,
concealment
considering you've got a shirt tucked in over top of the gun. You have to first rip out of the way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, very respectable. Excellent looking product. Real simple kind of diamond shape, contours, fits to your body. Keeps the, as you see, the rear sight, the back end of the gun is not against your body. This is protecting you from getting scraped up or what have you. And seems to be really well made.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we get the word out.
Yeah.
Greg would like you to know about his holsters. dcholsters.com. Check them out. And other than that, Robin, you want to demonstrate your draw?
Sure. Oh, my wicked, not so fast draw.
Yeah.
But as I was saying, this is something you can do while running down the street. If you feel the need to take the gun out, it's that fast.
There you go.
And try doing that out of Thunderwear. It ain't happening.
Right. All right, so guys, thanks for watching. Once again, dcholsters.com. Check them out. Greg Purcell is the owner, proprietor. He's a small business owner, real hardworking guy, real nice guy, really great shooter, and good USPSA shooter, a fine RO, a pleasure to shoot with. Shoot some business his way. Thanks a lot.
So this week's gun review is on the Beretta A300 Outlander. The A300 Outlander is Beretta's entry-level semi-automatic shotgun. The other semi-autos that they make are the A400, and then there's also a 1301, which is really designed for competition or home defense. The A300 Outlander is made here in the United States. It's actually manufactured in Beretta's facility in Accokeek, Maryland. Prior to the A300 came out in, I think, the summer of 2012. And before that, Beretta offered two different, again, semi-auto shotguns. There was the 3901, which I had a chance to shoot before, and also the AL391. So the 3901 was their entry-level gun, and the AL391 was their upper-end offering. The A300, as described by Beretta, is kind of a hybrid between the A400 and the AL391. So what it has is the AL391 gas system, which is a highly respected gas system in terms of semi-autos. And then with respect to the receiver is very similar to, as according to Beretta, the A400. So it's a very well-designed, slim, lightweight shotgun. The gas system in this is, again, it's self-regulating, designed not to be disassembled. So the gun will shoot 2 3/4 7-ounce loads all the way up to 3-inch 2-ounce loads. So it can handle the whole entire range of basically anything that you can throw at it. And you don't need to go and do anything here in terms of adjusting, the gas system or anything like that. It's auto self-regulating. The gun comes in basically 3 different configurations. There is a synthetic model, all black synthetic, and it has we'll just start with the synthetic. There is a camo model where the whole entire receiver and the forend and stock is camouflage, and then there's the wood model like this one here. The synthetic model has a adjustable length of pull on it, based on the use of shims and spacers. It ranges between, I think, roughly about 12 7/8 all the way up to, I think, 14.5 inches. So the beauty of that for younger shooters or for women is that you can, through the use of basically the shims in the stock, you can change the length of pull on the gun. I believe the camo model also features the same or adjustments that you can do. The wood one is fixed at 14.25 inches length of pull. They don't offer any ability to change the length of pull on the gun, short of changing the recoil pad here.
One of the other things that the gun comes with is a adjustable shim kit, and the shim kit is a shim that fits here between the stock and the receiver, and then also there's another plate that is in the stock of the gun. And the idea is that you can, with a shim kit, you can adjust both the drop of the gun, the drop being the height of the comb and the height of the heel relative to the top of the gun, and then also the cast, so cast on, cast off, of tilting the stock that way or this way. So by taking the stock off the gun and changing basically a steel shim here and this spacer here, you can adjust that. So with that feature, you can really adjust the gun to a lot of different shooters, which is a really nice feature. In terms of cost of what you're looking at for this, the MSRP on the synthetic model is about $775, and on the camo model and on the wood model it's about $845. So street price, you're looking at probably about $650 or so, give or take, for the synthetic model, and about $750 or so, give or take, for the wood model and the camo model. The gun is obviously 12 gauge. All of them are 12 gauge. To my knowledge at this point, Beretta does not offer the A300 in or 20 or any other gauge. The only models that I've seen have 28-inch barrels. Now, Beretta claims that you can get barrels from 26 to 30, but I've never seen them cataloged. In fact, if you go to Beretta's website right now, the only thing they're going to show for the 3 individual models, the synthetic, the camo, and the wood, is a 28-inch 12-gauge offering. So I don't know if they are planning, if they initially offered 26 and 30 and it didn't sell well, or if it's just these are more obscure and you can get them. But if that's something that you're looking into, I'd probably recommend contacting your Beretta dealer and go from there and talk to them about that. Speaking of which, again, you can get these through any of the Beretta dealers. Cabela's sells these, so if you want to check the gun out, you can go to Cabela's and check the gun out there. In terms of some specifics here, gun weighs about 7 pounds 3 ounces, so it's a fairly light gun compared to, say, my 682 over under. That's very close to 8 pounds. So in terms of a field gun, or even for clay sport shooting, works out very well. Again, with a gas system, recoil is very manageable on the gun. It has a black anodized receiver, obviously, here on the wood model, and on the synthetic model, on the camo model, it's camouflage. It has a matte black barrel. The rib is a 6mm rib, and it has a single front steel bead. Comes with 3 chokes, a improved cylinder choke, a modified choke, and a full choke. And these are all mobile chokes, so if you already have Beretta mobile chokes, you can use those or just go out and buy more of them. They are all flush mounted chokes. They are not extended chokes, and again, I think the main intent of the gun is for field shooting, to be honest, but it does work in all the different clay games. So if you are shooting, let's say, field shooting, you're probably going to want to stick with your single choke. There's no real reason to go off and be changing chokes, but if you're going to be using it for sporting purposes, you may want to look at getting the extended chokes where you can remove them and install them with your fingers, because I'll admit that is very handy to do. The gun has what's referred to as 3+1 capacity, so you can have 3 rounds in the magazine and 1 in the chamber. Chamber is empty for what it's worth. There is a spacer, as is common with pretty much all shotguns that you get these days, that restricts the magazine capacity to 2 rounds. You can take, it's effectively a steel rod out and increase the capacity up to 3. And again, that's 3 for 3-inch shells. I don't know if you'd get to 4 with a 2 3/4, but I kind of doubt it. The barrel is chrome lined, so that's a nice feature, and I would imagine these things would probably be really popular, especially in the synthetic offering, for guys who go out duck hunting or out in water or whatever, where you're basically really subjecting the gun to nasty elements. I wouldn't want to do that with a wood gun, but I think the synthetic and the camo guns are probably going to be seeing a lot of use in that application. Trigger pull is not bad. It's about 4.5 pounds. It feels pretty crisp, not real mushy or anything like that. Of course, nothing similar at all to my 682, which breaks right around 3 to 3.5 pounds, and a real clean, crisp trigger pull on that. But it's usable. Again, as a field gun, I don't think you'd probably want to be modifying trigger pulls or anything of that nature. So it's a pretty good system as it is. One of the other nice features is that the safety on it is reversible, according to Beretta, or I've not attempted to even figure out how that is done. Once you pull probably the trigger group out here, which we'll see here in a bit, there's probably some mechanism for doing that. So if you are a lefty and you want to see about getting that reversed and you're interested in the gun, I would recommend contacting Beretta about that. Overall, I really like the gun. The intent, really, this is kind of an interesting story. My wife was interested in getting into the shotgun shooting sports, and I had a chance to recently take this out here and run it through the field here on some of the sporting clays. She is very recoil sensitive, and she went out and shot some of my really super light 7/8 ounce loads through one of my overrunners, my Browning Satori. And the Satori is actually a fairly heavy gun. 28-inch barrels, it's my field gun, weighs a little over 8 pounds, and she was even getting beat up by that. So that started really a quest of looking for a reasonably light gun, but a semi-auto that wouldn't kick so much. And I'm happy to say that we took this out to the field, and she ended up shooting it and had no issues whatsoever, no complaints about recoil or anything like that. So overall, she's very happy with the gun, and as you can see here, I have run it through its paces in the field. Had no issues whatsoever with the gun. Very nice handling, definitely like it. So what I thought I'd do now is field strip the gun and show you basically the internals and the guts, and how easy this thing comes apart, and one or two things that you need to be aware of here. So first thing you need to do is to pull the bolt back here and lock it. Now you know it's not locking. What we need to do, there's a little latch here, catch, and pull that back. The bolt will stay locked back. Next thing to do here is we need to remove the fore-end nut. So we'll take the fore-end nut off. That comes off nice and easy. Set that aside, pull the fore-end wood off, set that aside, and then the whole entire barrel assembly comes off. Now, one thing you really need to be aware of on this gun, assuming that you get one of these, is that the gas system here. The gas system is not, you can't disassemble it. So that literally is as far as you can take the gas system apart. When you go to put the gun together, Beretta warns about doing it this way, is that they want you to make sure that you put the piston in the cylinder here and then put the barrel back onto the receiver, as opposed to putting the piston on the front of the receiver and then putting the barrel over that. The problem is, if you do that, is you'll end up basically potentially damaging this spring. I'm going to call it washer here. It's not really a washer, but it's the part of the gas system that also cleans the inside of the cylinder, and also provides a seal for it. So again, you can't really disassemble this thing. I'm going to set the barrel aside here, and we will take the bolt out. At this point, what I'm going to do is release the bolt by hitting the bolt release here and then riding it forward with my hand. Pull that out, and then the whole entire basically bolt, carrier, and operating rod are going to come out the front of the gun. And I found that it works easier here if you turn the gun upside down like this, as opposed to having it sideways or this way. So turn it upside down, simply pull it out, and at that point you have your operating rod, the bolt and carrier, and you can then easily clean these. So that's it for that. In terms of lubrication, Beretta recommends you do not put any oil or anything like that at all on the magazine tube here. In fact, they don't recommend any oil at all here on the gas system whatsoever. So basically just disassemble that, or I'm sorry, just reassemble that thing dry. The only place that you do oil anything is the bolt and the carrier, and the side of the operating rod. This side here as it slides back and forth in the receiver. So most people would probably stop there in terms of disassembly, but I'm going to go one step further just to show you basically how easy this thing is to fully take down. I'm going to pull a trigger group out of this thing. Very simple to do. hit that latch there. I'm going to set some of these parts aside here, put a nice crappy old t-shirt underneath, grab myself a punch, roughly that size, and drive that pin out. Pin pulls out, and then the whole entire turret group comes out as a complete assembly, and then you can go off and clean that thing to your heart's content if you need to. Again, I mentioned before about the reversible safety. Beats me. I have no idea how it comes out. It's not intuitively obvious to me, but I'm sure that Beretta could probably walk you through that thing. Or maybe it requires being sent back to the factory again, I don't know. To put it back together, and one thing I think I'd like to point out here real quick, you can see how few parts there are of this thing. I mean, it's not a very complex design, and to me, I really think that's a great feature of the gun. The less complicated it is, in my mind, you know, the better off it is. Very similar to Glock pistols or whatever, with the, you know, very simple design and so few moving parts. So put the trigger group back in, line up the pin here, tap that back. Oops, I just slipped. Tap that back into place. That's back in. And hit the release, pop that up, make sure everything's okay. And then in terms of putting it back together, what I like to do is basically grab the carrier and the operating rod. And the operating rod just fits into a notch here. Flip it over upside down again, like that. After oiling it, like we mentioned before. Kind of a, well, I shouldn't say a three-handed operation, but slide it back on. Make sure that I'm not sure what the technical name is for this, but it goes down into the recoil plug spring. And it needs to clear the hammer. So this is a little bit of a trick here in order to hit the thing just right. And I got lucky. So hit the latch here, oops, to lock that back. And at this point, we will put the barrel back on. And again, like I mentioned before, make sure that the gas piston is in the barrel before assembling it. And just simply put it back together. Put the fore end on. Tighten that thing down. And what I usually do in terms of tightening down, I tighten it down all the way and back it off one turn. And then put the operating lever back in. There you have it. Hit the release. Make sure everything's okay. And then what they recommend is basically releasing the hammer spring by pulling the bolt slightly back right about to there. Again, making sure the chamber is clear before I pull the trigger. Pull it back to there and release the trigger with the hammer, or with the bolt slightly back, just to ride it forward, which I did there. And that's it. So, hope you enjoyed that. If you're interested in the gun, go to your Beretta dealer, check it out. Again, they're sold at Cabela's. You can go there and handle them and see how you like it.